Hello, everyone. We are back from the break. Today, we are here honored to have two great estate sale attorneys.
Estate sale is the wrong term. I should have stopped him like 3 times ago, and I didn't do it.
What is it?
Estate planning. Estate sale means we're going to the house and cleaning up
I'm sure they can be there for that as well.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, they're going to estate plan and sell and do everything else.
All of it.
They are that great. So we want to welcome Angela Moore and Annalisa Marsunas.
Ooh, well done.
Well, thank you. We're happy to be here. Yes.
Can you guys tell us a little bit about how you got started in this particular industry?
Sure. Well, we grew up with it essentially. Our mother went to law school when we were both young, and so then she opened her own practice, and we grew up around it, and then we both joined her after we graduated from law school.
Wow.
And so for a while, we were the only mother-daughter law firm in the state, and now it's the two of us who are partners.
Wow.
Wow. That's super cool.
So who got licensed first?
Annalisa did.
I would ask,
younger.
right? Okay, so fair enough.
Yeah, it's not your fault. Don't worry. No one blames you. Well, that's cool. So like the sister lawyer duo, I mean, how was that type of dynamic played out over the years, not only being business partners, working together, being together all the time, but you guys are sisters. I know traditionally, I mean, I have a brother. We fight like cats and dogs pretty regularly. How does that play out within what you guys do?
We actually love it. We get along just fine, and we have a good relationship. So it works very well for us professionally and personally.
And are you guys just in the state of Arizona? Do you do estate planning?
Correct.
Okay. Just want
Right.
to make sure everybody knows that the whole
Yes.
state of Arizona they take care of.
That is correct.
So the estate planning questions now.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start with just what is the difference between someone having a will and having a trust?
A will is saying that when the person dies, their assets in their name alone, without a beneficiary or joint owner, pass under the will to whoever they name in the will to get the assets. The trust is a contract that's usually created by the person, and then they are usually the trustee and they're the beneficiary while they're alive.
Okay.
And then the trust can say who gets money when they die.
So often what people will do is they will use a trust as a way to avoid probate, a way to keep things private, a way to title assets into a trust. And you always have a will also,
Okay.
but a trust would work in conjunction with a will to provide much more in terms of flexibility and options and, benefits for tax purposes, any number of things.
Is there a financial number that you guys worry about when it comes to trust and getting a will? And you tell someone, hey, you get a trust, you probably need to have this much of assets that you need to worry about? Or is it no matter what, you should always think about getting a trust?
It depends on the person's goals and wishes. So
Okay.
it's not as much how much money they have, but
Okay.
what their planning goals are.
Mm-hmm. And what do you mean by that?
If there's a beneficiary with special needs, a beneficiary that can't handle money, if they want to plan in case of, disability, how to handle it, if they want money kept in trust from a asset protection or roadblock from the beneficiary's creditors, it just depends.
Wow.
It also depends on the types of assets they have. So there are a number of assets where, life insurance, a retirement plan, things where you can name a beneficiary and they pass directly on death. If you have beneficiaries who are all competent adults, you don't need extra planning, maybe you can get away with just a beneficiary designation.
Gotcha.
But then, like Angela was saying, there's situations, maybe you need extra planning. Maybe you want assets held in trust and managed for people for different reasons. So there are different reasons why you would consider options.
Can I say one thing? You guys sound like a team. The way you guys, boom, boom, boom. I'm just watching you guys. It's like, Angela sits back, Annalisa, I'm like, wow. I'm just watching
Well,
you guys.
you know how the team works. You've got one right here.
We do, for sure. So can you speak to some of the things that someone outside of their assets might be looking at, including in that estate planning?
As far as
Besides assets, you always want to look at the healthcare matters. So living will, healthcare power of attorney, HIPAA release, dealing with federal privacy laws, mental health power of attorney. Some of those issues, if you're alive and can't handle health matters, who's making legal decisions for you?
In addition, if you're a parent of a child under the age of 18, you're going to want to make sure that you have named in a will someone who would be guardian if something were to happen to you, or, what your plans are for your children if you die and they're under 18, or if they're under the age where you would distribute assets to them. You may have special planning and directions. I mean, I have like a 5-page single-space type list of directions for people if something happens to my husband and I for children-related issues too.
My kids are in their 30s and I never did that, and I still feel guilty about it because I don't know what would have happened to my kids, right? Because I don't know. I just didn't ever get around to doing it. So now I have grandkids and I still feel guilty.
Well, really it's important for anyone over the age of 18 to do planning. I mean, I have a son who now is 18, and one of the first things we did was his own estate planning.
Okay.
Because once you turn 18, even if you don't have a lot in assets, if something happens, now no one can make decisions for you. So you need powers of attorney. You need things in place so that if someone else needs to make decisions, whether it's a car accident, an illness, someone would be able to make those decisions for you.
And that's based on what your choices are before you become incapacitated.
Correct.
One thing I've noticed, I'm going to ask you guys, is that do you notice that because of the nature of estate planning and it really deal with death or bad things, it's hard for people to come to you guys and ask for assistance?
And we got about 45 seconds to the break.
Usually when they're at my office, they're usually already prepared to work with me on estate planning.
Okay.
They already know they need it. And then it's a matter of what routes they want to take or what they want to accomplish.
But there's no question. You talk to a lot of people, oh my gosh, we've got to do our estate planning. We haven't done it yet. We've been meaning to. It's an easy topic to just defer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people shouldn't.
We're here right now talking with Annalisa and Angela, who are both part of the estate planning. Thank you very much. I didn't hear no applause.
Yeah, that was well done. Yeah.
Applause.
What's the name of the organization?
So our law firm is Marsunas and Moore.
Okay.
We're a law firm located in Tucson.
Awesome.
More Marsunas and Moore. I like that.
That's right. It has a little spin to it.
Yeah.
I like it. It just rolls off the tongue.
We're going to be back in a second with Annalisa and Angela talking more about estate planning. Thank you for listening to the I Am Real Estate Show on KVOI 1030 The Voice. Welcome back. We're back with the team of Moore, and I know I was going to get it wrong after I studied. Moore, Annalisas and Moore Law Firm.
Let's start over. Marsunas and Moore.
What did I say, Annalisa?
Yeah, you did.
I think Moore, Garfield, and Batman, and Simpsons and Moore or something.
More Marsunas and Moore. I was practicing it the whole time during the break. I knew I was going to screw it up.
Yeah, you're good for that, though. That's
the
a
law
comedy
firm in
relief.
here. The law firm here, and we have with us. We're glad to have the two sisters, Angela and Annalisa, and I'll give it to my wife because I am screwing up.
Okay, we've been talking about trusts, and my next question really was, what does someone need to do if they want to make a change in the trust that they've established?
If it's a revocable trust that they can amend or restate, then they can simply amend it or restate it.
Okay.
The mic wasn't playing on that first part, but she said it's a revocable trust. And
If it's a revocable trust, they can amend it or restate it.
Okay. And how often would you say someone should go through and kind of reevaluate the plans that they have put in writing and make sure that they're still what they want?
It makes sense to look at it on a regular basis. Anytime there's a change of birth, death, marriage, divorce among the person or the beneficiaries, that might key, we should look at the plan. Does it need to be changed?
And you guys don't know that, so they have to come out and let you guys come and get a hold of you guys, right? Because you won't
Correct.
know.
It's up to them to reach out.
Okay. And in all honesty, I think family dynamics change a lot. And I'm just going to be really transparent here and tell you that my mom let me take care of all the finances. But when it came to if somebody had to make the decision for her health care, she thought I'd pull the plug. And therefore, I get zero say in that. And but relationships do change. And do you find that that's one of the things that people need to really consider?
Well, certainly. Anytime that there are changes in family dynamics, it's something that you want to consider. And people need to remember you don't have to have the same people managing the same things. You may have one person appointed to make healthcare decisions because they're good in a crisis. You may have someone else appointed to make financial decisions because they're the one that's better with the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I mean, you certainly look at family dynamics. You look at, and not just dynamics between the person setting up the estate planning and who they appoint, but who they appoint and the other people involved. You know, so if you have tension between the next generation, you may make considerations about who you pick based on that too.
Right. Did you have anything to add, Angela?
Sometimes if there's tension, you pick someone not family to serve if it might be a problem.
Okay.
Very
Naming
good
children
point.
to serve,
Yeah.
for example.
Wow.
Well, and especially when there are blended.
Yeah,
Especially
that's
with
a great.
blended.
Man, that's a great idea. That's a good thing to make sure people know that it doesn't have to be a family member. It can be whoever you feel comfortable to take care of things when things go awry.
Yeah, that's actually a great point.
Yeah, and something else you're talking about just earlier, you're talking about the kind of the different variables that one considers when putting together their trust. Like, I'm John Q. Public. I sit down with you for the first time. Like, what does that process look like? Walking me through putting together my trust and you know, preparing for, you know, my kids are 15, 14, and 13, preparing for when they are 18 and making sure that they have, whether it be a nest egg or have the things that they need to get them through college and get them, you know, a house when they get married and those type of things.
Well, so that's the initial part of the process is an initial appointment. And in that initial appointment, then, you know, Angela will often talk about what are their goals? What are their wishes? What are the family dynamics? Of
Right.
course, you talk about what are the assets? What are the debts? What is it that we are looking to do here? What is it we're looking to do in the plan? And what are those goals? Children who are young, it's not necessarily just when they turn 18. We plan for children a lot longer than that. It may be that it goes until they may not have full control of things until they're older.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing you were talking about is that when you entitle the home, and there are different ways to take title of the house, and that's one thing we wanted to bring up, and you said there were 4 different ways they can do it, and that needs to be discussed.
The title to real estate, tenants in common, there's joint tenants with right of survivorship, community property with right of survivorship. There's a huge difference in how assets are titled, and it makes a difference whether it's community property in character, separate property in character. If people are married, obviously, if you're not married, tenants in common or joint tenancy with right of survivorship.
Well, and in addition, you can hold title in the name of a trust, and or if it's an individual person, it could be in their name alone. And yes, as Angela said, it makes a big difference for tax purposes, for transfer purposes, and we also look at the possibility of a beneficiary designation versus putting it in a trust or not.
So I think that's something that people aren't necessarily aware of, that they can do a beneficiary deed on the house to kind of protect their children or siblings or whoever it is that they want to have own that property when they're gone. You did say, I loved it, entitlement matters. That's a question that we can't answer as real estate agents. If clients, you know, get their packet from the title company and it asks that, you know, how are you going to take title? And we are not really qualified to assist them in making that decision. So they really need to talk to someone like yourself and understand the implications of that decision.
And they really do, because I can't tell you how many times, not only in the estate planning arena, but in the divorce arena, you see people who take title to a property and have no idea that they just completely changed something from separate property to community property.
Wow.
Or that they've made a gift by changing the title, or from their name to the name of a trust. You have to be very careful not to make an inadvertent gift with title changes too.
Now, I had taken a class where they talked about your title insurance, that when you change from an individual ownership to a trust, that you may lose that coverage that you were given when you initially took out the title insurance. Can you speak to that at all?
It does make sense to ask the title company, will they add an endorsement to cover it being in a trust?
Mm-hmm.
But I think you'd have to check back with the original title company on that.
Okay, and that's kind of what I've spoken to one title or escrow officer who said it may depend on the company or the person who's insuring that policy. We deal a lot with people that have aging parents. So for us in real estate, that's probably where we are interacting mostly with trusts, or with issues where we have clients who are using a power of attorney. So my $1 million question for you guys is when do we start having those conversations?
Ideally yesterday.
Yes.
But if not now, you have the conversations right away, because if someone hasn't done planning and they're over 18, they need to. So we do a lot of work with both generations or multiple generations. So it may be adult children with their aging parents, and you can coordinate between the generations.
That power of attorney, I know that the title companies want to review that. So it needs to be written in such a way that they're able to work with the person who's been selected. Do you have something specific that you do for real estate that is different than a general power of attorney?
Normally, we use the general power of attorney. We can certainly add specific language if the person wants that this includes the property located at such and such address, or do a limited one that just deals with real estate and not everything else. But it just depends on the person's goals and wishes.
That was my question. It's a collaborative effect. So I'm wondering, do you guys sit there and talk to them? Say, okay, tell me what you want. Well, here's the power of attorney. We need to go moving forward. So you give them some good guidance on that path.
You certainly can, and if there is a specific request, we can always address that.
Okay.
Most of the time when you're drafting documents like a power of attorney, it's from now for the next 30 or 40 years. I mean, now, mind you, there are updates that need to happen periodically, but it's for the foreseeable future. And so the power of attorney is going to cover more rather than less, so it covers any possible situation, whether it's financial or healthcare or mental health care.
That's so they don't have to come back to 4 or 5 times every time something comes up. Oh, we have to amend the power attorney for this. Oh, we got to amend it for this. You go with the larger sequence so we can make it easier for them in the future.
Right.
Yeah, and earlier you were talking about that kind of the trust is the umbrella. It's kind of how I was seeing it in my head. And if a will's a spoke of the umbrella, what are some of the other spokes of that umbrella?
When you do overall planning, if you set up a trust, you always do the pour over will. You also look at powers of attorney for health, mental health, financial. You look at whether the person does or does not want a living will, the HIPAA release, whether they want to assign personal property into the trust, the beneficiary designations, how assets are titled, who's named as beneficiary, what should go in the trust now, what should be payable on death to the trust or people. You have to look carefully for retirement, annuities, life insurance, IRAs.
Well, and business planning. I mean, there are different specialized trusts that can be utilized also. Again, if you have family members who have special needs, the different options that Angela addressed with assets and business.
And I'll ask you this before we leave, and before you tell us your contact information, rather, how do you keep all that information in your big old brains?
Yes, I was asking.
And then your contact information.
Lots of work over lots of time.
Very good.
Post-it notes with to-dos, records.
Yeah.
Our contact information,
Yes.
my name is Annalisa Marsunas. I'm here with my sister Angela Moore. We're with Marsunas and Moore. The phone number is 520-318-0001.
Hey, we can't thank you enough for being with us today.
Yeah.
This is a tough topic, tough tough for us as well. We also want to take a minute to thank our sponsors. We have Horizon Inspections, Indy Realty, Inspired Life Mortgage, Rego Pest Prevention, Atomic Nutrition, and Sweet Little Chefs. We will be back next week. Hope you enjoy your weekend.
Yeah.